Well, hello there and welcome to the e-commerce podcast with me, your host, Matt Edmondson. The e-commerce podcast is all about helping you deliver e-commerce wow. And to help us do just that, I am chatting with my very special guest today, Yoni Kozminski from MultiplyMii and Escala about how to scale your business with the right talents. Let me tell you, problem we've all faced. And if you've not faced it yet because you're just starting out, let me tell you, you are going to face this particular problem. But before we jump into that conversation, let me suggest a few other e-commerce podcast episodes that I think you're going to enjoy listening to. The first one is Jesse Schoberg, where we talked about outsourcing remote teams and blogging your way to bigger e-commerce profits. That was a great conversation with Jesse. He's such a legend. He's also a legend, as is JJ Resnick. That was great. 8-step blueprint for building a successful e-commerce business. Still remember that conversation super well. Still got the notes, still look to them. You can find these as well as our entire archive of episodes on our website for free at www.ecommercepodcast.net. No idea why I said www, because no one says that anymore. But apparently I did. Anyway, this episode is brought to you by the e-commerce cohort, which helps you deliver e-commerce wow to your customers. I can tell you back in, a few years ago, I nearly lost everything online. Let me tell you, our business almost collapsed overnight. And there are lots of reasons as to why this event happened. And we were turning over 6 million a year online at the time. But I can tell you why it almost went to zero. Principally because I'd got siloed. In other words, I'd become really good at one or two things, but I'd missed the rest of the big picture where e-commerce is concerned. And that's what the e-commerce cohort is all about. It's helping you solve that particular problem. It's a lightweight membership group with guided monthly sprints that cycle through all of the key areas of e-commerce, not just one of them, not just two. It doesn't just pick on one or two bits. It covers the entire spectrum. It's lightweight, it's easy to get involved with, so do check it out. It is going to radically help you if you are in e-commerce, regardless of where you're at on your e-commerce journey. You could be starting out, you could be like me, you could be well-established, a well-established e-commercer, as I like to say. But wherever you are on that journey, do check it out because it is quite extraordinary. You can find out more information at the website. Let's do the www.ecommercecohort.com. Or if you forgot the www bit because you've never used that, just go to ecommercecohort.com. Or email me directly at matt@ecommercepodcast.net with any questions that you've got. I will try my level best to answer them. Honestly, super proud of it. It's an amazing thing. All of that said, without further ado, let's check out my conversation with Yoni. Well, I am here with Yoni Kozminski. He is an entrepreneur and business consultant with over 2 decades of experience in scaling businesses. Over the years, he has helped develop digital strategies for some of the world's biggest brands, including, get your notebooks out because you're going to want to make a note of these, Mercedez-Benz, for all of you having a midlife crisis. You can talk to Yoni about it. Mastercard, Sony, Medtronic Diabetes. The list goes on and on and on. His experiences eventually led to the creation of Escala and MultiplyMii, 2 companies that help businesses achieve massive growth. Now, besides being an awesome entrepreneur, Yoni is also a seasoned podcaster himself. And it's always interesting when you interview podcasters. His Successful Scales podcast is centered on questions relating to growing, selling and acquiring and scaling a business and what comes with it. Now, if you are looking to take your business to the next level, you're not going to want to miss out on this conversation. I'm super excited to have you here, Yoni. Thanks for being here because we were talking before we hit the record button. We've got some very good mutual friends in this whole space. And so super stoked to be here. Thanks so much for joining us all the way from Tel Aviv.
Matt, it's an absolute honor to be here. We do have some good mutual friends, which makes me know that I'm in good company here. And wow, I'm already sitting here. I'm taking notes. What an intro.
It's interesting actually because one of the one of the things I didn't say in the intro was you are a newly crowned dad, from what I can see. How's that all going?
I am indeed, mate. Your team is on another level when it comes to their recon work. So shout out to the production quality right there. But yeah, I've got a 3.5-month-old at home, Leo, and it's the best. It's the best job in the world, to put it lightly. It's the best thing ever.
It's great. Congratulations. Because Father's Day was yesterday, right? So that was your first Father's Day. What did you get up to? What did you do?
I'm glad you asked that, Matt. And I know that my fiance likely will never listen to anything that I put out into the world here. So I'll just say she did absolutely nothing. She was very surprised when I said, it's Father's Day today, while I was very aware when it was Mother's Day a few months ago and made sure to get her flowers and treat her.
Yeah.
And what I've learned through this journey, Matt, is that through the pregnancy, it was, how's Tully? How's it all going? How's the dog? We've got a pit bull at home, Dusty.
Mm-hmm.
And then, people seldom ask about you. And now it's, how's the baby? How's Tully? How's Dusty? And then you're just sort of off here and to the left, like totally irrelevant. So it was no surprise that Father's Day was pretty uneventful for me. But I'd have to say I'm just happy to be a father and, putting in the work.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. Father's Day, I thought, because I have 3 kids myself, and I've been through several Father's Days now. And it's one of those things where you kind of... all you can do at the end of the day is just go, I am really, really grateful for my kids. And the rest of it's just all good fun. My son sent me, I'm going to show it to you, Yoni. I appreciate if you're listening to this podcast, you won't be able to see what I'm about to show him. But if you check out the video, you will be able to see it on there because it is something to behold. I don't know if you can make that out.
Happy Father's Day. I can definitely make that out.
So this is the statue of David, to which my son photoshopped my face.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant.
Onto the statue.
Josh is your son?
Yeah.
Josh, well played, sir. Well played. That is some impressive Photoshop work, I must say.
Zach, my middle child, he sent me a card with, the helium balloons on it?
Yep.
And Zach and I have this standing joke because we both like to go to the gym, and Zach is now stronger than me in about 80% of the lifts.
How does that
and
feel?
So he oh, mate, that's just horrible. It's a mixture of both pride and contempt all at the same time. I'm like, you go, bud, you're doing really well. But the other half of him is like, I've got to work harder to try and keep up. So he had the picture of the helium balloons on the front of the card, and it just said, Dad, this reminded me of what you can bench press.
Oh, my God.
So this is what you've got to look forward to. Zoe, my daughter, she wrote in my card, Dad, happy Father's Day. Behind every great parent is a great, amazing daughter.
That is like, this is Northern English humor 101 right here. Literally every single one of your kids has had a brilliant dig at you in some way, shape, or form. Bravo.
Yeah, it's the way of the future, right? So I appreciate, dear listener, that by the time you're listening to this, it is very far away from Father's Day. But at the time of recording, we've just had it. And so all that to say, Yoni, congratulations on the new baby. And the other thing I wanted to congratulate you on was the ability to do a backflip. I have some serious envy on that. And so well done.
Mate, that was a life goal of mine. The question, the truth is I don't know that I can still do one, but in that time of that video, I could.
You've got it on video. That's all you need.
Right? It's there. It's in the ether now, and it's not going anywhere. So, yeah, just so you know, Leo, when you grow up and when you listen to this, your old man can do a backflip.
Yeah. You've got some work to keep up, right? So that's awesome. So... besides from having a dog, a fiance, a newborn, and the ability to backflip living in Tel Aviv, you've got these two companies, Escala and MultiplyMii. How did you get started with this? What's the sort of the backstory?
Yeah. So the backstory, like any good backstory, simply came from experience and understanding from a specific market. So I grew up in creative advertising and digital marketing, and you listed some of the clients that I worked on. Um, but sort of behind all of that, I was the 10th employee in Australia at an agency that took on Mastercard when we actually launched them on social. So there wasn't Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Pinterest for brands really. It was just sort of at that age.
Yeah.
And us as an agency, we grew from 10 to about 35 people. That was everything from SEO to web development, design, content strategy and production, media buying. I mean, the work sort of as it was all really starting to come up. And then moved over to the States. I was the 15th employee in an agency working with Sony and Snapchat and Mastercard over there. And we grew to about 40. And so what I would say is what I became very adept at is what the experience looks like growing from a very small to, a
Hmm.
small to medium sized agency. And so when I moved to Israel about 5 years ago, I met a couple of guys that had an Amazon business. They were doing about 2 million in revenue and had got stuck. And on the back of that, I said, look, what's happening? You guys are trying to achieve absolutely everything with a team of three, where not one of you has real experience in any of the things that you should have. So they'd never done any media buying before. They'd never done any creative design work, brand strategy. They'd never done anything that relates to it, and yet they were still, I would argue, very successful. And so what I did was I effectively came in and built an operation and a team out of the Philippines that was high level. So I'm not talking about virtual assistants here, where you pay them $3 an hour and they do some baseline tasks. I'm talking about
Mm.
designers, ops managers, creative directors. We built a customer support team, my co-founder and I, of 5, and we built out the operational infrastructure, and that business was able to grow from 2 to 5 million in the space of about 12 months. It
Oh, wow.
was subsequently acquired by Thrasio, and on the back of that experience, we just realized that we could really help a lot of people who had great ideas, were very, very savvy when it came to product development and understanding what customers or customers essentially were looking for from a product brand perspective. And so we sort of built that out, I would say, on steroids, for lack of a better
Mm.
term. And so Multiply Me, really, the incubation of the idea that was Multiply Me was our experience in building that team inside of the e-commerce business. And then we've taken that now and built it out into a proper operation. And Escala, on the other hand, happened probably 6 months after the start of Multiply Me. And that really happened, I would argue, by accident. I think much like a lot of success, at least I would attribute in my life, it all happens by accident, right?
No, it's
Um,
amazing how many times you hear that as the answer. How did this happen? Well, by accident, really.
it was just luck, dumb luck,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
But I interviewed an ex Ernst and Young management consultant who just really wanted to work at a startup, and she was a process improvement management consultant out of Ernst and Young in the Philippines. And I said, "Listen, you're going to come and work with us, but there's no way in hell I would waste your incredible talents on being a project manager." So she delivered the first internal project of process improvement, and on the back of that sort of 3-month experience, I just said, listen, we could rapidly change the way in which organizations behave. And so we built out a Scala. So now we've got about 35, nearly 40 full-time management consultants. Many of them come from Ernst & Young, some out of Accenture and Deloitte, Philippine based, so we can keep our
Hmm.
operating costs low. And Multiply Me has probably about, I'd say, 280 plus people on payroll, but about a total of 110 people are reporting into us. So essentially, that was sort of how it all came to be, was just, understanding the environment that existed inside of that Amazon e-commerce business and the challenges that they experienced. And then obviously the business was acquired, so there was no more business for us to
Hmm.
deliver that. And it was either, do we dive back into building another D2C or e-commerce business, or do we move into professional services? And not that you've asked the question, but I'll just tell you anyway. The decision that I made really there was that the capital constraints that would require me to build an Amazon business to the level that I wanted to build it to, I would have had to put in realistically $500,000.
Hmm.
And to build a service-based business, which granted, I'd had a decade of experience growing in and building myself was a lot lower. So that was really the decision. And I also would say as well, a lot more sort of meaningful to me. I mean, I look at sort of our success as how many lives do we impact because we exist in market today. And, I always lead in with how many people we have on payroll, not what our, what I would argue is a vanity metric. And we can talk about it a bit later, but just, I'm a 7, 8, 9, 15-figure business. At the end of the day, that doesn't have a whole lot of meaning to me. And, I would argue we're on track to be a 8-figure business next year, but I could care less about the fact that it's irrelevant to me.
That's really interesting. I do want to get into the principles and concepts of scaling and growing a business that you've learned so we can pick your brains. But there's a couple of things there, Yoni, you said that I just want to mention. I'm really intrigued by the fact you went from running an e-com business to deciding to go professional services because of the capital aspect of it. Because so many people are doing it the other way around. They're in professional services business, but they're wanting to do the e-com side of things. So it's interesting that you kind of like the salmon in a spec. You've kind of gone against the flow. And that intrigues me. And then the second thing which intrigues me is this phrase, it has to be meaningful to me. And I'm curious as to where you got that from, because you don't hear a lot of business people these days talk about meaning. You hear people talk about 6, 7, or 8. You go buy an online course, will help you deliver a 7, 8-figure business. You don't go and buy an online course, will get you a business that's meaningful to you. Do you know what I mean? So where did that come from?
So I'll start with the first question, and that was, I'm a salmon swimming upstream, the wrong way here. So I would argue, or I would say that obviously it's a natural inclination. If you are professional services, then you move into client side, right? Which is either building your own brand or working for a Mercedes or Mastercard or whatever that looks like. And I think that there is definitely, there's definitely a lot of positives there. Like, you would argue as a career professional services guy here, clients are the worst. Clients are the ones that essentially are the ones that make all the mistakes, because you lay out the equation of what they need to deliver on. And typically it's their inability to deliver on the expectations that sees you render, a result that's not positive for both of you. So I moved away from the traditional agency model where we were responsible for every component of delivery. So we would come up with a content strategy that'd give us the budget, obviously, and we'd produce it and we'd post it. And every little issue that came up, every little typo or spelling, whatever it was on us. So the model that we've built today really puts a lot more of the accountability and responsibility on our clients. So I'd say definitely taken a step away from re-engineering the model, so to speak, where management consulting, we've effectively democratized our ability to deliver that to people that, quite frankly, have never seen what that looks like. These people haven't worked with the EYs and Accentures and Deloittes and McKinseys and Bains of the world. So, to them, it's absolutely groundbreaking. And I would say 99% of our projects on the Escala side, people walk away and they're like, holy shit, like this is life-changing in terms of what I'm able to achieve. And on the MultiplyMii side, we're trying to move further and further away from the typical business process outsourcing BPO space, where it's you come to us, we'll hire you one person, you'll have communication with that one person, and then they'll build a team, and that's how it is. We think in order for you to build a real business, or a business that stands the test of time, you have to invest in your culture and what that looks like. So what we do is we facilitate the onboarding strategy. We help you understand who you actually need, not just a job description that you put out there. And we sort of bridge that gap. And then we help, maintain that sort of fluidity. So we pay healthcare and social security and HMO and PhilHealth. And, the business really was started because there was a, somewhat of a social mission attached to it. So I've built myself a nice segue here. So I would say that's why I'm back in the professional services space. I'd also argue that I'm trying to build a lot of leverage long term. Like, I've been working on the 10-year vision around the business right now, and having a business that can effectively find you high value, low cost individuals and then having another business that can help you understand, fix, and build essentially any business. We've made a considered decision to focus on e-commerce. All of a sudden, I look 10 years into the future. There's a lot of things that you can do with both of those businesses. My ability to scale up our operation and not break it is far superior to most people out there, especially at at the investment that's required. We were talking before we pushed record, and I was saying a year ago I didn't know what a biz ops team was. Today we've got a biz ops team of 5, and there's all these functions that I didn't even know that you would need, because I quite frankly never worked for a business as large as the one that we're running today. So so that's that component. That's why I've decided to swim upstream. And then on the meaningful, or the consideration of why I choose a business around meaning and purpose, this is a bit of a tangent, but bear with me for a second here. I went to Burning Man for the first time when I was 27 years old, just as I moved to the US. And Burning Man is an arts and crafts festival. It's honestly, it's like nothing that exists anywhere else in the world, other than sort of the sub Burning Mans that you see in other regions. But it has 10 principles, Burning Man, and you can't, even if you don't read the principles, you can't help but feel them. And by day 3, I just remember experiencing one of the ones that I still feel strongest about, and it's about the gift of giving without the expectation of reciprocation. And so I went through this journey, and on the back of leaving Burning Man, I said, you know what, I'm done with everything that relates to capitalist society. I want to go and join a not-for-profit, an NGO. I want to do something that's going to have real meaning and purpose. And a buddy of mine actually said, listen, before you go ahead and do all of this, I want you to just read this book. And the book is called 80,000 Hours, and it is a book about effective altruism. So for those listening, it's how can you have the most positive impact on humanity with the 80,000 hours that the average person has in their entire working career. And so it's a short book and it's free. I'd highly recommend to anyone listening to read it. And where I landed on the back of it, and I'll give you one little anecdote and I'll explain to you why MultiplyMii exists and what our mission really is here. But the anecdote that really resonates with me is that, if you're a general practitioner, a GP, a doctor, in your lifetime, on average, you'll save about 12 lives, which is tremendous, right? I mean, 12 lives, Matt, to save 12 lives. How special is that? Now, if you simply invested $2,000 a month, 12 months a year, to a malaria fund in West Africa, you'll save about 5,000 people's lives a year. And so what I took away from that entire book and the experience and the decision to stay in the commercial world is that, I had somewhat of a knack for the commercial world, and that for me to truly have deep impact on the world, I want to sharpen my skill set in a competitive environment. And the second you move over to the not-for-profit space, it's less competitive. It's not this challenging rat race of how do I get ahead. And so I made the considered decision on the back of wanting to go into the NGO space to say, you know what, I'm going to work my ass off and I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can be, so that when the time is right and, financial security is there, I can really have the most impact that I can on the betterment of humanity. And so the mission around MultiplyMii was, when I left that company, when I left the Amazon business, I asked a couple of the team members that we'd hired there, like, tell me unapologetically, what did you make in corporate Philippines at your highest? And it was about 3 times what we were paying them. And not only that, but they were getting healthcare and social security and HMO. And I just said, it doesn't make sense. We're making $1 million of profit a year in that Amazon business, and they're taking salary sacrifice, getting paid, $5 an hour, $6 an hour via PayPal, without any of the benefits or any of the job security that they would experience in the Philippines. And I just said, it doesn't make sense to me. So the mission around MultiplyMii was to offer all of the benefits that you would effectively see if you were in the corporate Philippines. So we offer healthcare and social security and HMO and 13th month and paid leave and everything that they would get. But I think what's more for me is that I look at onlinejobs.ph for anyone who's listening. It's like, I like to call it the gateway drug to finding talent out of the Philippines, where you find talent that's sort of like just good enough to deliver data entry and some skill sets. And if you're lucky, you find some really, really hot talent in there. But ultimately, there's levels of talent that exist that are well beyond that. And so, when I experienced that for the first time, I just said, I've got the whole equation wrong. I was delegating tasks and not accountability and responsibility to people who could really deliver. And I would argue far deliver on a level that, I've never really even had coworkers deliver at that level anywhere in the world. And I've worked in, 3 or 4 geographies now. So really eye-opening. So anyway, I've gone on a little bit of a rant here, Matt, but the point I'm making is it's very easy to get out of bed in the morning, knowing that because we exist in market today, 330 odd people can put food on their tables and provide for their families. And so for me, going back to the start of it, the vanity metrics around the revenue numbers, it doesn't have meaning and purpose. And I can do this all day because I know that because we exist, it matters. It matters not just to me, but to a lot of other people.
That's a really powerful thing, and I think the ability to get out of bed and be motivated with a smile on your face, I think is one of the things that so many in the West are missing. And I'm a slight idealist, if I'm honest with you, but I do think it comes down to this idea of meaning and purpose, and just being really clear on what that is. Why am I here? What am I going to do? And all that sort of thing. So I'm really intrigued by your story. So thank you for sharing, Yoni, about that. And it's interesting. I mean, you've obviously created these two quite Goliaths, is maybe the wrong phrase. Do you know what I mean? But two quite sizable organizations. You've got one in the Philippines doing some direct good to people in the Philippines, but obviously also direct good to the organizations that use that service, right? It's got to be to coin the Stephen Covey phrase, it's got to be the win-win, hasn't it? It's got to work for both parties.
A great man.
How do you? I'm just thinking of the listener who's listening to the show. They're growing their they're in e-commerce. Some of people might have started. Some people have been around like me for a little while. What are some of the principles that you have learned in doing this that can be really helpful? I've got here, like, how do you use process and systems to help scale businesses like this assess, design, integrate concept? Explain what that's all about.
Before I explain that, I want to just take a step back or look at it at sort of 30,000 feet here. So, none of us, not a single entrepreneur, business owner created their business to be a slave to it 168 hours a week, right?
Very true.
When you're looking to create or live the entrepreneurial dream, it's for more freedom, more time, and effectively more money. And I think what typically happens to the average entrepreneur, and I've been guilty of it myself, is that you obsess over the delivery and you obsess over how you can continue to grow and evolve. And what you sort of miss along the way is that unless you're actually able to delegate, and unless you're able to start to get outside of your business and bring on the right people or build the right processes, you start to run on the e-commerce hamster wheel, where how I would define it, what does that look like, is you have initial success, right? So let's say you drop ship, the typical journey, you start drop shipping and you realize the opportunity, you start to move into making your own products, and you start to see that success, and maybe you move away from your full-time gig to really accelerate growth. And then what happens is you just become a victim of your own success, because the second that you feel like you're going to take that foot off the gas, stranded inventory, issues around supply chain and logistics, suppressed ASIN for an Amazon seller or whatever. I mean, what happened to me when I was a drop shipper, I didn't realize that I couldn't sell knives on my website and do Facebook media buying, and, my site went to shit. So something happened. So, you have a few options that you can take at that point, and it might be imploding, which I think a lot of e-commerce entrepreneurs will do, or You can sell your
In there.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you can sell your business, which effectively, when we talk about selling your business, it can be great. It's probably not the best time right now, depending on when this comes out. It's probably still not going to be the best time to sell your e-commerce business. And the last one would be to delegate and elevate. So really start to hand over that accountability. So going back to your question, when you look to build systems in your business, I think the first and most important thing to start considering is, how am I investing my time and where is it going? So getting clarity on where your time is going, and then starting to understand what are the things that I can give ownership and accountability to. And so a really simple thing that I love to recommend to people is look at your calendar, actually document, put every aspect of everything that's happening inside of your calendar inside of it. So if I'm on this podcast right now, it's in my calendar. If I'm doing preparation for 30 minutes beforehand, making sure that I have the right answers and insights, I'm going to put it in there, putting every little bit, and then assessing that at the end of the week, really understanding, well, how did I invest my time? Was it meaningful? Was it valuable? And then starting to focus that in. So back to the system. So that's how you can start to remove yourself from your business as a first step. But when we talk about systems, or how we talk about systems inside of Escala, systems are effectively the perfect harmony between people, process, and technology. And if you don't have all three of those right, then something's going to fall off. And let me just give you a prime example here. So most of your listeners here are obviously e-commerce entrepreneurs. So I'm trying to think, if it's not an Amazon example, let's say you're using something like, let's say you're using something like MailChimp, right? And you want to delegate the email marketing component of your Shopify website to someone else. Unless you dictate that inside of MailChimp, you go to this specific email template. A lot of people will just say, go to MailChimp, deliver the work, build the SOP around that. And that's great. But if I stated that, once a month we're creating an email sequence and there's an abandoned cart sequence, whatever that is, what I'm going to define is who's responsible. So the copywriter will effectively go into MailChimp and go to XYZ location and deliver it at this point in time, once a month on the last Monday of every month. So connecting the people, who's accountable, the process, what they need to actually deliver, and the technology is how you can start to string it all together. Whereas a lot of people look at technology as like the panacea, like, cool, MailChimp, done. Do the MailChimp thing, do the Shopify thing, and we're good. But in reality, unless you're really connecting all three, you're not being effective in that. I mean, I could sit here and really walk you through what Escala's 5-tiered hierarchy around process methodology is. I'll let you keep asking questions, but I'd be very happy to happy to share what that looks like, so you guys can get an understanding of how to build process. But maybe I'll let you do your part and ask the questions before I dive in.
No, I'm curious to get into it, because I've drawn out the little triangle of people, process, and technology here, and I'm curious is that something that I need to think about from day one? Is that something that I need to think about when I hit 5 staff, 1 million in turnover? Or is that something that I think, actually, no, this is, once I've got over 20 staff, then I can think about that kind of thing? At what point in my journey do I need to start to think about these things?
Yeah, it's a great question, Matt. So I'd say you should from the get-go be thinking about what's involved in your process. I don't think from day one you should be documenting absolutely every little thing that you're doing, because ultimately it will change quite significantly over time as you become more sophisticated. And effort versus reward. Early days, if you're the solopreneur trying to get things off the ground and you're testing a lot of things and you've got enough time to deliver, you're all good. You don't need to be documenting every little thing. It's only when you start to feel stretched that I think that's when no one can come into your business and know absolutely everything that's going on inside of your head. And so I would say, as soon as you start to get to those levels, and a great way to think about it is, let's use your example of 5 people, $1 million turnover. ultimately what happens if someone doesn't show up for work or decides to leave and renders right away. I don't want to go to some of those more morbid ones, gets hit by a bus. But let's say they get hit by a bus. I had to go there, didn't I?
Yeah, absolutely.
But well, you're from Liverpool, so you get it. But ultimately, if they disappear, then so too does that output. And so you're left effectively having to pick up the pieces, unsure of, or effectively losing where you are having the most impact. So I would say as soon as you become a little bit stretched, that's when you should start enacting some of these processes. But you want to actually get to them sooner rather than later. And it doesn't need to be, and I'll share with you guys, in a little bit about our methodology and how we approach it. It doesn't need to be at a Scala level. That's management consulting level, and that's in a league of its own. Starting with a Word doc or an Excel doc and simply defining everything, that's great, because ultimately you're simply trying to unlock the keys so that you can effectively achieve more time in your day, which is just not a replenishable asset. So I want to build more time in my day so that I can focus on the things that are going to have the most impact in my business and in my life. So I'd say that's definitely how you should be thinking it from the get-go.
So what is this methodology that you make reference to?
Yeah. So the way we structure it, and I think there's lots of mistakes that people make when they, people's like, yeah, I've got SOPs. And then when you start to look at what those SOPs, those standard operating procedures really are, they're not at the level they need to be for someone to effectively understand exactly what's going on in the business. So Escala's sort of litmus test, if you will, is that our expectation once we've delivered a project, which can take 4, 6, 12 months, depending on the size of the business, is that within 15 seconds of you coming into this documentation, you'll understand exactly what you need to do, up to the most granular detail of what needs to be delivered. And so how we effectively structure that is we look at a business as core processes. So what are the 4 or 5 core processes that happen inside of the business? So just to throw a few examples out there, like for an e-commerce business, product research and development might be a core process. You might have finance as a core process. You'd have brand management would be a core process, and customer support. Those might be your 4 core processes. And then once you understand what those core processes are as they relate to your business, you start moving to the next layer down, which we call process groups. So process groups, they comprise of multiple functions that work together end to end to provide effectively a solution for that specific function. So let's take new product discovery, for example. Inside of that new product discovery process group, you might have things like research and identify new product. The next sub process or process group might look like, develop product and then hand over product to brand management might be the 3 process groups. So you're looking at product research and development, let's say, and then inside of that, you'd have new product discovery as one of the process groups. And then the next layer down, and the way we also approach it is you have like a numbering or a naming convention. So for product research and development, it might be 1.0. And then new product discovery, which would be the first stage in the process group under that core process, would be 1.1 new product discovery. And 1.2 might be, develop product, and 1.3 might be pass on product. So the next layer down is now where you start to get a little bit more visual of what's really happening, is what we call the sub-processes. So inside of the sub-processes, so again, following the same narrative here from product research and development as the core process, new product discovery as the process group, a sub-process might be receive new product ideas. So inside of that, this is where you start to get into the granularity on what's happening. So this would be who's responsible. So let's say you have a product researcher and a product development person. This is where you'd actually start to illustrate the process maps of the decision matrices. So go into, I'm just going to use an Amazon example here. So go into Helium 10, which is a research tool. So go in, do, the product researcher will go into Helium 10. The next one will be they'll look inside of the black box function to understand what's the keyword search term volume. Is there appetite for it? And you'd sort of move along to understand yes, no. If yes, then continue on. If no, then it falls down to the next stage. And once you're at that point, that's when we start to go into the real granularities of what's happening. So level 4 is activities, or that's effectively like what you're delivering. So examples would be gather product ideas from Helium 10's black box, like I just mentioned. It would be create a new task inside of your project management tool, like ClickUp or Monday or Trello or Asana. It would add product details to the research specifications. It would be all of the more detailed instructions of how you actually approached it. And then the very last stage is, I would say, what most people would define as their SOPs, where that has the full working instructions of every single stage inside of the process of what's done under that subcategory of the core processes to the process groups to the sub processes to the activities to working instructions. So in that, you might have video examples. For us, we do sort of 2 to 5 minutes, no longer, of a Loom video if it's something that's more complicated, or screenshots or written instructions as a combination with those screenshots or with those videos. And so again, it's a little bit tougher to do this where you're just listening at home without having sort of the visual aid. But if you can imagine, if I'm looking for the first time inside of the product research component of a business, or I'm like, okay, I have no idea what product I want to bring to market. I've never worked in the business before, but I came from another e-commerce business. Well, I know, okay, I'm going to look in the product research function, and then I'm going to go to new product discovery. And then from there, I'm going to go to the sub process that has received new product idea. And then I'll be able to go, so I'm following 1.0, then 1.1, then 1.1.1 will be. So you sort of follow down the visual hierarchy until you get to the working instructions. So again, with the litmus test being in 15 seconds, can we figure out exactly what needs to be done? You sort of follow this journey all the way down to getting to the granular details of what needs to be done. So I know that's a lot that I've just sort of thrown at you there, Matt.
No, it's super helpful. I've made lots of notes, Yoni, which is always a good sign. And I like the idea of you're starting very high level, aren't you? And you're breaking things down into more and more detail as you go through that and understand that. And so when you go into I'm just circling back to something that you said.
Just let me just share with you on that. And you highlighted a really important point that I hope everyone takes away from this, is that one of the number one mistakes that people make when building process is they take what we define as a bottom-up approach, where you'll have a specific process and you just build out that process. So let's say we're talking about how we recorded this podcast, and let's say go into Riverside, record the podcast, ask the questions, go through it. But what you failed to understand is, what is the overarching complexity of creating the podcast? Well, there's a research team, and that research team connects with Matt to give him the information to ask the right. So if you're not looking at it from a high level first and how it all breaks down, then what you're effectively doing is you're missing key deliverables along the way. And so taking that approach of the high level and understanding how does everything integrate inside of your business is paramount to seeing the success of building out effective process. So sorry to cut you off, but you really...
No. You go for it.
There's a light bulb moment for me to share with the listeners.
No, it's great. And it's an interesting thing that you said. And the thing which intrigues me is something that you kind of hit in your comments earlier on with Escala. You were talking about how this could be a 12-month process. And so this is not me sitting down to a Google Doc one night and hammering it all out in an hour and a half, is it? This is quite involved work by the sounds of things. So what do I do, Yoni? I get the idea of processes, and as you were talking, I don't know if you remember the book or ever read it. You reminded me as you were talking of the book The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just this is sort of the modern version. And then obviously he uses McDonald's as a great example of a very scalable business, because they have mapped their processes to the point that teenagers you know, who are having a bit of a cob on that day can still work the system, right? And you go, and that's genius. I understand it. How do you allow for flair for, do you know what I mean? That sort of that creative spark, or that sort of slight tangent that leads to something quite interesting. I think for someone who's quite process orientated, this is a beautiful thing. For someone that just likes to be, you know, flowery is the wrong word, but very spontaneous. This is almost like putting them in jail kind of conversations. How do I allow for that? How do I build that into the system?
Yeah, great question there. So I think the way you need to frame it is, while you're building out all of these processes, there's another component that's connected to this. So when I look at Escala, we sort of take two tracks around scaling businesses or helping build them for exit operationally. We have the process optimization. Can we do this more effectively? Is there a better way? Is there a way where we can reduce the operating costs by being more intelligent on how we structure it? And the other is the org strategy. So who do you need? When do you need them? And one of the fundamental things here is building the accountabilities and responsibilities of each of the team members that you bring into the organization. So if you're building it in a way where there's, again, this is, this is stuff that I live and breathe, obviously, but if you look at it at the macro level, you always want to be putting people into the right seats, the seats where they are going to be most impassioned. They're going to love what they do every single day. And so if you want to create and maintain that flair, then making sure that the accountabilities and responsibilities delivered to the individual are aligned with their true skill sets. And so, you mentioned the E-Myth. I think a book that I found probably more effective than the E-Myth, while it's a great one, is Traction, EOS, if you're familiar.
Yeah. I am very much so.
So that sort of takes into a lot more of the account of how you can sort of structure this inside of a business that's between sort of 10 and 250 people. So I'd say, coming back to it all, if you're a company that you only want to be 3, 5, 10 people, building out these processes, it's not going to be as paramount to the success of your business unless there's critical points where you're going to lose key personnel who are going to get hit by buses all the time. That's going to be a problem, right? But if your ambition is not to have 300 and whatever team members, then it's about having focused attention on how far you want to take it. For me, we can't run if we don't have that level of documentation. So you can build that creativity and flair into the accountabilities and responsibilities inside of those processes. And I'd also say the processes are used as a guide. It's not necessarily gospel. It's not about you do this task after this task after this task. Like when we're building KPIs and incentive programs, a big component of that is about hitting specialized projects, or we run on EOS internally, so making sure that our rocks align with the high level. Rocks are effectively 90-day rolling goals, and you have a scorecard that each week you make sure to see whether you're on track or off track in achieving those goals as they relate to that 1-year plan. Let's give that example. So again, you build the business strategy for the 12 months forward, and you work backwards in how you achieve it. And so as long as they're hitting those goals, then that's what's paramount. And so they shouldn't be sort of put in their box, but they'll always come back to the processes to make sure that it's being delivered correctly.
That's very good. Very good. Listen, Yoni, I'm just getting started. I'm just getting warmed up. I have so many questions, but I'm also aware of time. Yoni, for those listening to the show, how do they reach out to you? How do they connect with you if they've got any questions, which I'm sure they have, all of their own?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you're specifically looking at Escala or MultiplyMii as solutions that are interesting to you, I delegate accountabilities to much more intelligent people than I am. So I'd say check out multiplyMii.com or weareescala.com, and through that you can get on a call with either Kat, who's our director of business development or client engagement rather, or Lippy, my co-founder, who will take you on a discovery call and really get to the core of how we can help. If you're specifically looking to connect with me, which I welcome and invite, it's just my name at either one of those websites, multiplyMii.com or weareescala.com. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can add me on Facebook. I'm absolutely terrible there. So apologies in advance if that's where you're trying to find me.
You're the wrong age demographic for Facebook, aren't you? So all the stats tell me.
I'm too young. What's the age range?
Yeah, way too young. I think don't you have to be like over 45 or something now for Facebook? So.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Instagram, won't say. We will, of course, link to Yoni and his LinkedIn profile and to weareescala.com and MultiplyMii. We will put all of those links in the show notes, of course, as well. So you can also check those out, ecommercepodcast.net. Yoni, thank you so much for being on the show. Honestly, pages of notes. Mainly more questions. And it's great when you have these conversations because it just gets the old grey matter thinking, doesn't it? And you just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. And I valued the conversation about meaning as well as this whole conversation about process. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, if anyone's been listening in for this long, I hope you got a little bit of value out of all the nonsense that I typically talk.
Thanks, Yoni. So there you have it. Great, eh? What a great conversation. Huge thanks again to Yoni for joining me today. And also let me give another big, massive shout out to today's show sponsor, the e-commerce cohort. Head over to ecommercecohort.com for more information about this new type of membership and community that you should join. Now, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from because we have some great conversations lined up and I don't want you to miss any of them. And in case no one has told you today, you, my friend, are awesome. Utterly, utterly awesome. The e-commerce podcast is produced by Orion Media. You can find our entire archive of episodes on your favorite podcast app. The team that makes this show possible is Sadaf Bainon, Josh Catchpole, Estella Robin, and Tim Johnson. Our theme song has been written by my good self, my incredible son. And if you would like to know more, read the show notes and transcripts, I suppose, is in effect what I'm trying to say. You can get them for free. Head over to our website, ecommercepodcast.net, where you can also sign up for our newsletter. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a fantastic week. I will see you next time. Bye for now.